Welcome back to Dead Good Book Reviews. I'm Judith and you're watching another episode of Overbooked here on the channel. This is the series where I talk about every single book on my shelves because, speaking to the dead, they told me I didn't think of one for this one. Let's just go into it. Today we are talking about Samantha Shannon's Bone Season series. Obviously this is a 7-book series, we don't have all the books out for it yet. I do believe I have a review up for maybe The Mask Falling, I'll link it if I remember. But I'm going to do my little Overbooked spiel for the first 4 books. The first book, The Bone Season, came out in 2013. It was followed by The Mime Order, then... Can I do these in the right order? Yes. The Song Rising, then The Mask Falling. There's also a couple of other short story... little add-on-y things you can read if you want to. I'm just going to be talking about the main 4 books. I have read the other bits and bobs, but let's try and keep it contained to the main books. I would describe these as supernatural dystopian books. I think a lot of people often will mischaracterize them as YA. They do have a lot of YA tropes and elements to them. They aren't technically YA, they're adult sci-fi, I guess. Probably. I think you could read them in a fantasy lens. They're a little bit genre blendy. Let's go. If you haven't heard of Samantha Shannon before, she is a British author. One of the big things about this series is that Samantha Shannon signed the book deal for it when she was very young, and a lot of the publicity around this was very much focused in like, this is a young person who's publishing a book. I've talked about that on this channel before. I think it's a lot of marketing nonsense and we don't need to worry about it too much. The actual quality of the books is what we want to talk about. Samantha Shannon has also recently published A Day of Fallen Night, the second book in the Roots of Chaos series. I think that's what it's called. If not, I'll have to correct myself on screen. I've got a video up for that book if you want to check that out. We are in an alternate universe where there are people who are voyants who can kind of access the spirit world. There's a lot of different types of voyants. There's a lot of different ways you can be voyants. Scion, the government, do not like voyants. They don't want them doing what they do. They go against what they stand for, and they are basically persona non grata in this world. Paige, our main character, is one of those voyants, and in the beginning of the book she is working kind of in the underground of the city, and she ends up getting captured and being sent off to Oxford, a city where she ends up working for kind of aliens, sort of otherworldly beings, and gets to see that the world is much broader than she thought. Book 1 is very different from the other books in the series, so therefore starting talking about book 1 is quite difficult. Never mind, it's fine. Some quick disclaimers before we properly get into this. I was sent a review copy of, I think, The Mask Falling, but I can't remember because it's been a few years. All of these books I've bought myself, regardless of where books come from. Nobody's paying me to talk about books and all opinions are my own. I'm going to keep this as spoiler-free as humanly possible while still talking about the series as a whole, so if you do want to go in knowing absolutely nothing, pause this video, come back when you've read them, we'll talk about it then. And I will link the story graph for the books below in case you want to check out any user-generated content warnings. It's just going to have to be slightly behind me. I hope you're okay with that. Book 1 is very different from the other books. Book 1, I would say, leans most into those kind of YA trope feelings, and I think book 1 is one of the reasons a lot of people do kind of tag this series as a YA series incorrectly. It's got a lot of weirdness to it. It's got a lot of, I think, very much 2013 tropes around it at the time. I think this is a series that really grows, and it has grown on me as I have kept reading it and rereading it in order to read the next books in the series. I think writing it off as it's 2013 debut kind of stuff is somewhat reductive and also potentially less helpful because they are actually re-releasing book 1 for the 10-year anniversary. Can't believe it's been 10 years since 2013. Let's not think about that too hard. So yes, book 1 is getting re-released. A lot of it's being updated, and I'll be really interested to see what the differences are between the two. Maybe I'll do a video on that. I haven't quite decided if I have the brain capacity to sit with 2 books in front of me. We'll see. But yes, definitely what you see in this series is the kind of series where both in the breadth of the world and of the characters, there's this big sense of broadening and deepening as the series goes on. So we get to visit new places in the world, we get to meet new people. I think it becomes much more of an ensemble cast. While Paige is very much still the protagonist, the other people become more significant in ways that they just can't be because of the nature of book 1. It's good. I think if you're looking for a series that really builds, that would be a reason to read this. And also, if you're a person who stopped at book 1, depending on your reasons for stopping at book 1, this might be something you could continue with, especially when book 1 is re-released. Because I do like a lot of the elements of this story. I think it's a creative and interesting world. You know me, I love a bit of death magic, and the voyant powers in this world are really interesting, especially because there are so many different kinds of voyants, and Paige is one of them, but we meet a lot of other types, and that's another way in which the series broadens as it goes on. So if you like a kind of story with magical powers where you get to get a little bit of a list of magical powers going on, different people who can do different things, almost superhero-esque, this might be another thing that you would enjoy. I think a bit of it is still a bit wishy-washy in my head as to how some of it's working, but we're not quite at the end of the series yet, and also maybe that's intentional because this kind of thing is being kept secret, so it's not like people are researching this in any way. I would say it walks the line for me. It didn't feel completely like you're thrown in at the deep end and you don't know what's going on, nor did it feel like everything was explained to me from the off. I think this is a really good series for seeing Samantha Shannon's writing grow, especially now having read Priory of the Orange Tree and A Day of Fallen Night. You can definitely feel the themes that she's wanting to write around really develop, and the maturity of that writing. It's why I'm really glad that they're releasing book one. Not to keep harping on at that, but book one feels very different from the others for me. One of the examples of that is they do get more gay. I think they get much more gay as they go on. They're not gay to begin with, but they do get more gay, and I like that. And I think part of that is a product of these books being written very slowly, which some people may find frustrating. In fact, I know some people do find it frustrating, as we're 10 years on and we've only got 4 books out of the 7, and I think it's pretty much going to be one every 2 to 3 years as we keep going. And while that is frustrating as someone in the middle of a series, saying you're going to be in the middle of a series for more than 10 years is quite intense, but I think it has really allowed for that maturity of writing and that ideas to develop, and for the books to change drastically in that way that you wouldn't have if it was 7 books over 7 years, or in some cases we've got series coming out like 7 books over 3 years. I think I appreciate that time, and I feel like because the books do stand on their own, that's not to say there aren't cliffhanger endings, but the actual plots of the books stand on their own well enough that it's not a case that you're sat there for hours and years just going, when will I ever find out what this specific thing ends with? They're structured in such a way that they are allowed to have that time in between them. However, I'm willing to admit this isn't a perfect series, and I don't think that it is. I've never really felt that it was. There's a number of reasons for that. I think some of it's in that maturity of writing in the earlier books, and some of it's to do with our main character Paige, who just can't catch a break. One of the things me and my wife often joke about is that Paige is just consistently being beaten up physically and emotionally from the start of book 1, so far all the way through to book 4, and it will probably keep going until book 7. I don't know what the reason for that is and why that feels so true. I think it's because Paige never really gets a chance to recover from anything. So you're always encountering her at the kind of end of an injury or the end of a bad period of mental health as a result of something. And it's always understandable. And it's never a case that it's sort of Paige's fault, though she does make some terrible decisions. But what main character doesn't? I think just never really getting that sense of like, oh, she's all right now for 4 books across 10 years is quite intense. I've talked about this on the channel before, but a lot of that balancing of things and the peaks and troughs of things, we're down for quite a lot of these books, and I think it needs a little bit more up just to balance it out. Reading something like The Dawn Chorus, which is a bonus book that feels a little bit more soft and gentle, helps with that, but if you're only reading the main books in the series, it's quite down, especially if you were going to sit and read them all in one go. I think you would just end up feeling a little bit despairing. So bear that in mind. If you don't like watching your main character be beaten up physically and emotionally over the course of 4 books, maybe spread these out a little bit. I've talked a little bit about the first book not being as good, them feeling a little bit imbalanced. I would say for me, every other book is my favourite. I really like book 2 and I really like book 4. Book 1 and 3 I could take or leave. I don't think it's a coincidence that those books are a little bit more ensemble feeling. Perhaps I'd need to do a full reread again. I think as the next books keep coming out, I will do a complete reread of them to really get a sense of where my loyalties lie. But it's so hard with a series like this to have a favourite until you know how it ends, because you don't know how it's going to fit into the wider scope. And obviously, it's going to be a long wait for the ending. If you're a person who really likes to complete series, if you're trying to bring a series tracker down, I wouldn't start this, because it will be on there for quite some time. Worth noting. Some other things you might want to read if you have read these, or if you're interested in reading something else. My list of dystopian fiction is surprisingly low, so if you've got any recommendations for that, please do let me know. I looked it up and all I was getting was like 2010 and earlier YA, and I was like, that's not actually what I'm after right now. Thank you so much. Recommendations for that, please. I think if you haven't already read Priory of the Orange Tree and A Day of Fallen Night, they're very different from this, but I think if you enjoy Samantha Shannon's writing and her way of viewing the world, particularly towards the end of these books, you might enjoy that. I think for some of the kind of connection in with death and that slightly spooky edge to things, maybe T. Kingfisher, they're not very similar in tone, but I was just thinking about books that manage to balance slightly spooky things with non-spooky things, and T. Kingfisher is a person who can do that incredibly well. Another recent read, because that's always what's at the front of my brain, for connecting in with kind of a spirit world and magical powers and gaining access to things and sort of being kidnapped by people. Tracy Deon's Legendborn series is a YA series that I'm currently 2 books of the 3 books into. Again, not particularly similar to this, but some interesting ideas around that in there as well. Should you read these? I don't know, and that's a frustrating way to end this video. I wish I had an easier answer for you. It It will depend on you as a person, obviously, but I think it also depends on how the next 3 books go. And in some ways, I should have just sat on this video for another 10 years and seen how it goes, but I wanted to make this just to kind of get a sense of my thoughts at the moment, because we are going to get more books in the series, and book 1 is being re-released, and I'll be really interested to see how all of that happens. What are your thoughts on this series? Do you have plans to read it? Have you already read it? Did you read book 1 and then give up? Let me know down in the comments below. I would love to hear from you while you're down there commenting. If you haven't already, please do subscribe. It makes me feel loved and appreciated. You can also follow me on social media. Come hang out on Discord where we have chill chats about books. I would like to say an enormous thank you to all of the ghosts who haunt me over on Patreon. They support the channel and in return get early access to bonus content, videos, live streams, and more. If you would like to join their number, that's linked in the description as well. Thank you so much for watching. That's all from me, and I will see you in the next one.
There's gonna be some bloopers now.
Oh, I don't want to play this game today. I don't want to play it. I don't want to play it. We're not discussing this right now.